Good morning, students, and a very warm welcome to all of you in this e-learning program that is organized by Shri Gyanmanjay Vidyapith. In our today's session, we are going to do with this lesson, which is flotation. Okay, the second lecture of this particular chapter. So welcome to Science by Harsha ma'am. In our today's session, we are going to move further in this particular concept of chapter 4 flotation, that is the upthrust or buoyancy. Now, what is the meaning of this word upthrust or buoyant, and what actually is or exactly is the meaning of it? For that, you need to do a small thing. What? Let's see. Just take a small vessel and fill it with water. So, the water is filled in the vessel now. In this vessel, which is filled with water, dip a ball of plastic. It will float on water. Alright. Now push the ball over here in the water. More and more you will push it inside, more and more force you need to give. Why? Because the water which is present over here, it will apply some kind of force in the upward direction so that this ball doesn't get sink. Any type of fluid, it's not only water, any fluid, in fluid, liquids as well as gases are included. So, inside any fluid, if at all, any object is immersed, first of all the fluid will try that particular object doesn't come inside it, and solely it will exert a force in the opposite direction, generally in the upward direction, so that the object doesn't get immersed in the fluid. And that upward force which is exerted by the fluid against the object, that is called as upthrust or buoyant force, and the phenomena is called as buoyancy. So here it is, the upthrust or the buoyant force. And what is the phenomena called as? Buoyancy. As you can see over here, in the fluid, a ball is kept. If the ball is getting immersed in the fluid, then the fluid will exert some kind of force in the upward direction. What is that force called as? Upthrust. Now, this force which is getting which is coming in the upward direction depends on two things. Alright, it depends on two things. The things on which it depends is this is again the vessel, which is containing some proportion of water. Alright. And on it, we are putting two balls. One a bigger ball, another a smaller ball. So, if I try to push this ball A, this is ball A and this is ball B. Alright. This one is A and this one is ball B. If I try to push ball A inside and ball B inside, then the amount of force that is needed to push both the balls will be different. How it will be different now? It will be different because the ball A, it is having more volume. So one very important thing on which upthrust depends is volume. It depends on the volume of immersed object. Alright, the amount of force that is needed to push ball B will be less as compared to what is needed for pushing ball A. More the volume, more will be the upthrust. Next thing on which the upthrust depends is the density of the fluid. That means if instead of water, if I add little bit proportion of salt to it or sugar to it, then also the amount of force that is needed to push ball A or B will differ. So that is how the volume as well as density are the two things on which the buoyant force depends. So that is the next important point. The buoyant force depends on the volume of the immersed object in the fluid and the density of the fluid in which the body is immersed. So some will float while some will sink. The one which are floating, on them more amount of buoyant force is given. The one which is getting sinked, it is because of its different volume. So note down this content. After that, we'll discuss about a small activity which is given in your book. First, note down these 2 points and what is buoyant force. Quick. So I hope you have noted the content. Now the next particular activity which is given in your book to demonstrate that the weight of the body which is immersed in the fluid reduces if the fluid is changed or if the density is decreased. Now how will it happen? Okay, this is the heading which is given to you. First of all, you have to take a spring balance. In that you have to see that it is having 0 error and you have to check out its least count. Alright, so just take the spring balance and then take the minimum amount, take a small object and just measure its weight. When you will measure its weight in air, what will happen? You will see its weight as, suppose it is 640 grams. So in air, the weight which you saw is this 640 gram. Now what you have to do? You have to then take a particular vessel, and in that vessel you have to pour some water. Alright, first you took the spring balance and you measured the weight of object in the air. You got the measurement as, suppose say 640 gram. Now what you are doing? You are taking a vessel. In that vessel, what are you filling? You are filling water. Once you fill the water and then you do the same procedure, you check the weight of it. The weight comes to be 410 grams. It was first 640. Then it became 410. What is the difference? 0 minus 0, 0. 4 minus 1, 3, and 6 minus 2 is 6 minus 4 is 2. So that much amount is the weight of the water which is displaced over here. It's 230 gram. Why it is happening like that? It is happening because the water is exerting a force in the upward direction. And so, whenever you might be knowing, even the bucket which is full of water in that, if you take a glass and you put it inside the water, if you are taking that glass which is in the water, till the amount of time it is in water, it's not a problem. Once it will come outside the surface of the water, its volume, its weight will increase. Even from the well, many times you might have seen people fetching water from the well in the villages and somewhere nearby when you go. So till the amount of time the bucket is inside the well, the weight of the bucket will be less. While when it is coming outside in the air, at once the weight increases. Why? Because till the amount of time it is there in the water, the upthrust is acting, and because of that it feels to be somewhat little bit light. The next particular point over here, the object, if at all you are putting some salt in this, then the density changes, and because the density changes, there will be change in the upthrust. Here it is weighing 400 gram. Here it reduced to about 230. Here, from here to here the gap is of just 10 gram. But why is again that gap? That gap is because of addition of salt to it. If salt is added, then again this reading will be 400 gram, which shows that over here the water displaced is 240 gram, and this is how you can say that inside the fluid, if at all the density is changing, the concepts will change. Okay, the weight will reduce. So just read this content and just observe this. Then we'll move further on the next particular part, which is Archimedes principle. Read it, just go through it. Now, the next important point regarding the buoyant force and flotation. When can you say that the object will sink or it will float. So these are the criteria by which you can say that the object will float or it will sink. If the buoyant force is generally acting in the upward direction and the weight is acting in the downward direction, alright. This is how the forces are acting. The buoyant force in the upward direction, while the weight is acting in the downward direction. So, if both of them are equal, the object will float and it will remain stationary. If the buoyant force is more, then the object will move up. Alright, if both are equal, then what will happen? Ultimately, it will stay somewhere inside the fluid at a stationary place. Next, if the buoyant force is less and the weight is more, then what will happen? The object will sink. So these are the criterias. When the object will sink, then when it will float, and when it will remain stationary. The next important part, that is the Archimedes principle. What is this Archimedes principle? He said that whenever any object is immersed completely or partially in any fluid, the fluid is exerting some kind of force on the object, and this force is equal to the amount of weight which is displaced by the object. How he came to know about this? So he was just bathing. Archimedes was just bathing in his bathtub. When he entered inside the bathtub, the water came out, and from there it came into his brain. Okay, this is how the concept is there. In our day-to-day life, whatever things are going on, they are somehow related with physics. Even while he was bathing, he was thinking about this concepts of density, relative density and all that. Just imagine what kind of brain they might be having and what kind of stuff might be going on constantly in their brain. He was bathing and he came to know, and he just started saying Eureka, Eureka, and he gave the concept. And this is how his law came into existence. So, whenever an object is partially or completely immersed in the fluid, it will experience an upthrust that is equal to the weight of the fluid which is displaced by the object. Once again, when the object is totally or completely or partially immersed in the fluid, it experiences an upthrust which is equal to the weight of the fluid which is displaced by the object. Quickly note down this law, very important law, and now we are going to see about its various applications. So note down this quick. Once again, whenever an object is completely or partially immersed in a fluid, it experiences an upthrust which is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by the object. Now, let's move on the further part. That is the upthrust and buoyant force. The key word in the principle is this, that is upthrust. What is the meaning of the word upthrust? It is the upward flow of upward force that is reducing the actual weight of the object when it is under water or any type of fluid in which it is. Alright, as I discussed with you that whenever it is there in the fluid, even the object, it will ultimately decrease, its weight will ultimately decrease. Alright, so that is about it over here. For example, you are having a metallic block. It is having the volume of 100 centimeter cube and it is dipped in water. Then it will displace the volume which is equal to the weight. If it sees its weight, it's to be 1 Newton in air, but in the water it will be less than 1. So this is about the buoyant force. This concept we already have discussed. Now, the sinking and the floating objects. For that, let us again the same concept which we discussed, but with respect to Archimedes once again. This is the volume which is 100 centimeter cube, its density and mass and weight is given, which is about 2.9 Newton. Now it is when kept in water and the density of water is given to us. The mass of the water displaced, how much water is coming out, it is about 100 gram. And if we talk about its weight getting displaced is 1 Newton. So, how much will be the weight over here? Can you tell me? If this is 2.7 Newton, here 1 is getting displaced, then what will the spring balance show here? Can you tell me? I am giving you 1 minute time to think what will be the weight over here of the spring balance. Just tell me. Weight of the water that is getting displaced in 1 Newton, so what will the spring balance show? Quick. One minute time for you. The spring balance will show 2.7 minus 1, which is 1.7. Alright, so that will be shown. Here you can see the reading is 2.7 Newton, while here it will be 1.7 Newton. Why 1.7 Newton? Because 1 Newton amount of water that is getting displaced, that is about 1 Newton, and so you have to reduce that amount of upthrust. Alright, so this is about it. Now next, the density and the buoyancy. So from the Archimedes principle, you come to know that buoyant force is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced, that is mass into gravitational acceleration. Now next, you know that density is mass upon volume, so you get the buoyant force as rho into V into G. Okay, let me explain you once again. This is the object on which the buoyant force is acting, and this is how the weight of the object is shown. Now as per Newton's second law of motion, you are knowing that F is equal to m into A, that is mass into gravitational acceleration. Now next, You know that density, which is denoted by rho, is equal to mass upon volume. Therefore, rho is equals to m upon v, which implies m is equal to rho into v. So if you put m is equal to rho into v in F is equals to ma, so putting m is equal to rho into v in F is equal to ma, you get u, that is the buoyant force, is equals to rho into v into acceleration is the gravitational acceleration, so that is g. So this is how buoyant force u is equals to u is equal to rho v g, that is density multiplied by volume multiplied by gravitational acceleration. I hope you remember in the beginning only I had said that it depends on two things, that is density and the volume of the object which is immersed, and see here we got its derivation. So whatever part that I explained you before here is the proof of it. Note it down quickly, then we'll move further. Note down this whole derivation. Quickly note down the whole derivation. So this is about how we got the derivation. So buoyant force is rho, that is density into volume into gravitational acceleration, where B is buoyant force, rho is density, and the g is gravitational acceleration. Alright. Now the law of flotation. What does the law of flotation states? It states that the object is getting floated. It depends on the density of the fluid and moreover the volume which is getting displaced. A floating object will displace the amount of fluid in which it is floating. Here is the next question where we need to think that just assume in the warm fresh water, cold fresh water, warm sea water and cold sea water. If the boat is traveling in all these four types of water, then what will be the amount of fluid that is getting displaced, or how much amount of part of the boat will remain inside the water? Just think over here. Why the depth of the ship which is immersed in the water is different? Why it is like that? Here it is the reason for why it happens so. It is because fresh water is less dense than the sea water and warm water is less dense than the cold water. So warm fresh water needs to be displaced more to keep the thrust, which is equal to the weight of the boat, and so it can float. So that's the reason that the proportion of ship which was there was different. Now, very important part, that is the applications of the Archimedes principle. 2 or 3 applications are such that which are not there in your book, but yet we will discuss. The first one is this, the plimsoll line of the ship. It is the line which is over here as an indicator, which shows that how much amount of ship should remain dipped when it is inside the water. For various, it is having a lining like this, that if it is a fresh water, then it should be at this lining. If it's salty water, then it should be at this lining. If it's salty water in summer, in winter, then there is different linings. If as per that lining, if the ship is not submerged in the water, then what will happen? Ultimately, there are chances that the boat may sink. Amount of weight that they are adding in the ship, okay, like you are knowing that loads of weight is there, lots of weight is there. They are adding some of the substance and many things, they are adding iron and everything, and then they are shipping it. So that they are checking first whether it will be able to manage it or not. Even you are knowing that overweight is ultimately creating a problem, whether it is on road or in water. On road, okay, you can say that okay, this much amount of people are there. In ship, how can you judge? So for that judgment, there is one line which is called as plimsoll line, and that is one of the very important concept of ship, which decides about the how much amount of weight it can withstand. Density of the seawater, it varies with location and season. These are very important point, and to ensure that the ship is loaded with the safe limits, there is one plimsoll line which is marked on the body as the guide of it. If it is not following this, then ultimately there will be some kind of problem. Alright, note down this. After that, we'll move on the next application of the Archimedes principle. For kind information, this is not there in your textbook, but it's just for information. Quickly note down, then we'll move further on the next particular type of application of Archimedes principle. Just note down this last 4 lines. You don't need more than 30 seconds to note down. Be quick. Now, the next particular application about the submarine. Alright, you already know that the submarines, they can go inside the water, and they are even sometimes floating. Now what is the reason behind this? The reason is the ballast tank which is present. Now when the ballast tank is full, what will happen? It will remain sinked inside it. If little bit of from the ballast tank the fluid is removed, then it will float inside in the water like this. If it is totally empty, then it will stay at the top. Why? Because the amount of fluid which is present that decides whether the submarine is going to float or sink. And this is about the very important concept of the ballast tank. If the ballast tank is empty, okay, then the upthrust will be greater than the weight, and that's the reason the submarine will rise to its surface. Over here, as you can see, if the ballast tank is full, then the upthrust will be less than the weight, so the submarine will sink into the water. Alright, this is another application of the submarines. Okay, note down these 2 points, then we'll move further. Now, hydrometer. First of all, why a hydrometer is used and what it is basic functioning like. It is generally thing which is used to measure the density of the liquid. So, in order to find out the density of the fluid, what is getting used is this, which is hydrometer. This is how it is looking like, and at its bottom it is having one lead shot. Above it there is the air filled like glass bulb, and then there is a thin stem over here on which the scaling is done. Okay, so this is how hydrometer is functioning to find out the density of any fluid, and with the help of this lead shot we'll come to know about how it will float and everything. So this is how the hydrometer is working. It is just put it in the fluid, and as per its density it will give the upthrust, and on the scale we will come to know. Alright. So this is how the hydrometer is. So it is an instrument which is used to measure density, and this is ultimately one of the application of the Archimedes principle. Another is lactometer, which is used to determine the purity of milk. Now the next particular concept, that is relative density. What is this relative density now? We are knowing that density of any object, it is defined as the ratio of mass of the object and the volume of the object. So, what will be the density's unit? Mass is measured in kilogram. Volume is measured in meter cube, the SI unit. So, the SI unit of density is kilogram per meter cube. If I talk about the lower units, that is CGS units, then for that 1 kilogram upon meter cube is equal to 1. How many kilogram is equal to gram? It's 1000. And how many meter is equal to, if we convert it into centimeters, then it is 1 meter is 100 centimeter. So 1 meter cube will be the cube of this, that is 6 zeros. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it is 10 raised to minus 3 gram per centimeter cube. Density of water at 4 degrees Celsius is 1 gram per centimeter cube. And it is 1000 kilogram per centimeter cube. This is how its conversion is there. Note down this content. After that I'll teach you what is relative density. Note down this content. First I'm giving you just 1 minute to note it. Now, relative density. Now, relative density. What is this relative density? Relative density is equal to density of object divided by the density of water. If we divide the density of object by the density of water, then we get a new term which is relative density. When the density of object is divided by density of water, unit of density divided by unit of density. So, relative density is a unitless concept. Unitless thing. Okay? It is just a number. Moreover, here you have to be careful that water's density at different temperature is different. So, compulsory we have to take it for degrees Celsius. Note down this formula. Then we'll move further. Density of object divided by density of water. Relative density is a unitless thing, and at 4 degrees Celsius, its density we are considering. Do not forget that. So, these are the things we have discussed. If the value of relative density is greater than 1, then it will sink, and if it is less than 1, then it will float. This is applicable only when the fluid is water. Alright? So, that's all for the content of the day. Thank you so much, students, for listening to me, and I hope that you have understood whole of the lesson. In our next particular session, we will do the numericals of this chapter. So that's all. Have a very good day, all of you. Bye bye.